question. And another part of my question is, what are the impacts of funding cuts on the situation of refugees and asylum seekers in neighboring countries, and on those who have been forcibly returned to Afghanistan, particularly from Iran? And I also saw BBC report that some of the victims of the recent earthquake were deported from the neighboring countries. So over to you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much, Mitra, for your excellent moderation. The funding cuts impacted our organization and also LGBTIQ people in Afghanistan on the ground from different aspects. One of the main things that was hit because of the funding cuts was the protection and relocation program. As you all know, the situation of LGBTIQ people is extremely difficult, and they are extremely vulnerable at the moment in Afghanistan because of the Taliban's policy in Afghanistan. So we were providing cash assistance to the LGBTIQ people in Afghanistan, particularly LGBTI women like lesbian, bisexual, or queer women, or transgender women in Afghanistan. As you all know, women and girls in Afghanistan, they cannot work. And there are many lesbians in Afghanistan. They are victims of forced marriage. They have children, and they already lost the support of their family, or they are single lesbians with children. And we were providing this cash assistance to them so they can survive in Afghanistan. But unfortunately, since January, we couldn't provide this program. And since the beginning of this year, we are receiving hundreds of requests for help from Afghanistan, but unfortunately, we couldn't address none of those requests from Afghanistan. And apart from that, in collaboration with our international partners, we were providing relocation to safe third countries, but only to those LGBTIQ people at risk. We were providing supports for their visa fees, costs for their passports, shelter in neighboring countries, particularly Pakistan, but unfortunately we cannot run those shelters anymore because we don't have money for that anymore. And also LGBTIQ asylum seekers in neighboring countries, they have to find their own accommodations, and some of them became homeless in those countries. And also they have to pay for their own passports and visa fees. My colleagues, my Afghan colleagues here, they know how expensive it is to get passports in Afghanistan at the moment, how difficult and expensive it is to get visa from Pakistan to go there. And because of that, we cannot relocate them like before to safe third countries like Germany or other EU member states, unfortunately. And because of this situation, this left LGBTIQ Afghans in a very vulnerable and difficult position. They already have PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, and now they have these suicidal tendencies at the moment. And we cannot, our organization and also our partners cannot provide mental health services anymore because of the lack of fundings. And also there is another aspect that LGBTIQ organizations have been impacted. For example, we were documenting human rights violations of LGBTIQ Afghans by the Taliban in the past 4 years, but unfortunately we cannot systematically document human rights violations against them anymore. And it will impact our accountability work because we cannot engage with the accountability mechanisms properly. And also it will reduce the visibility of LGBTIQ issues in Afghanistan at international platforms and international forums. And also at the organizational level, our organizations have been impacted as well. For example, we had to change our strategy, and we had to shift from paid work to voluntary basis, which is very valuable, but on the other hand, it is not sustainable. It impacted and it reduced the capacity of our organization for case management and documentation of human rights violations in Afghanistan. And more importantly, we are losing the relationship of trust with LGBTIQ people in Afghanistan. This is really important because we were providing protection, we were providing relocations to those at risk, we were providing cash assistance to single lesbian women in Afghanistan with children to survive inside the country, and also they were reporting human rights violations. We were documenting human rights violations, but because we are losing this relationship of trust, it is very difficult now to identify LGBTIQ people, to document human rights violations. But back to your second question, Mitra, regarding the Afghan asylum seekers and refugees, we already know that the situation of Afghan asylum seekers and refugees were already difficult in neighboring countries, particularly in Iran and Pakistan. I was a refugee in Iran. there are many challenges for Afghan refugees to even buy a SIM card, to have a bank account in that country. There are ill treatment and racism in the country. The same thing in the Pakistan. But unfortunately, the situation got worse since the beginning of this year. Over 2 million Afghans have been deported to Afghanistan, and unfortunately, there are a lot of ill treatments. Since June 2025, the deportation of Afghans increased dramatically from Iran. And there are a lot of ill treatments, beating of women and girls and even elderly people while deporting them. And the impact of funding cuts made the situation even worse, because international organizations or UN agencies and even local civil societies in countries like Pakistan, they cannot provide life-saving support